Hello, it's your friend Phil, project management trainer and coach. We got a question came in today from Kamal. Mr. Kamal Zidane is asking a question here, and we're going to address the question because it is a very important question as you prepare for your PMP exam. The question is with regards to change requests and the change log. And he asks, I conceive that change log, which is a project document, should be updated through perform integrated change control process. What I don't conceive is when it's possible, according to the PMBOK Guide 6th edition, to update that document through manage stakeholder engagement process. Why and in which case is it possible to do so? So that's a very good question. How is it possible that we have updates to the change log as a result of the manage stakeholder engagement process? So let's start off by talking about what happens when change requests are put in. A change request could originate from lots of processes throughout the PMBOK Guide. Lots of these PMBOK Guide processes generate change requests. So I'd like you to imagine it starting off from this point I'm about to illustrate. Let's imagine it starting off from here. You got your process, any process, and from this process comes a change request. Any process can generate a change request once the project is live and active in executing, or you're in monitoring and controlling. You can expect to find change requests as a result of that process. Also, in the planning process group, a number of those processes could give you a change request as well. So I would advise you to read through those specific processes in planning that give you change requests. If you read carefully through the PMBOK Guide, you're bound to find those planning processes that could give you a change request. There are quite a few of those that I have come across that could give you change requests. So the bottom line is, you can expect to find change requests from a number of processes. Now, after that change request is generated, it makes a journey to perform integrated change control to be processed. So we have perform integrated change control, and that change request going in to be processed right there. And then out of perform integrated change control, you get your approved change request if the change request is approved. If the change request is not approved, then subliminally it goes into your change log, which is an output of perform integrated change control, but we see it more as project documents updates, and within that we know we've got our change log. Okay, so that's pretty much the framework for change requests as a whole. It should not be strange to you to see a change request coming from a process. Like I said, some planning processes even generate change requests. One notable one of those, which I'll just write to the side here, is your plan procurement management. You can see that change requests originate from there. See, that's one of the planning processes that we see change requests coming from. They don't come from every planning process, but like I said, if you read carefully through the guide and just note them, you will find a few. So a change request coming from the process that we know as managed stakeholder engagement should not be strange to us. Because in managed stakeholder engagement, what you're doing is trying to engage your stakeholder, actively engage your stakeholder through impeccable, hopefully, communication skills. Hopefully you are getting these stakeholders to appreciate and understand their role in the project and the project itself. And as you're doing this, there could be certain requests that these stakeholders make. Think about it. You're communicating with someone, you're in the zone, you're actively syncing up with them in mind in terms of the project details. There's synergies going on. Isn't it possible that there's some great ideas generated from that discussion? Of course it's possible. So it shouldn't come as a surprise if the PMI says from this process you can get a change request. It shouldn't be strange. So what I'm going to do right here is take this out where I have process, get rid of plan procurement management. You already know what I meant there. And let's replace that box with manage stakeholder engagement. So if we make manage stakeholder engagement our focus here, this is what Kamal is asking. He's asking, how can manage stakeholder engagement generate a change request? And on top of that, he's also asking, what is the use of the change log listed as going into this process? So the answer is simply this. Your change log is being used as an engagement vehicle. This is an engagement vehicle for the project manager to board that stakeholder, to get that stakeholder on board with the project. It's a way to engage them and let them know this is what has happened, this is what your change request finally ended up it's become an on hold change request, or it's become an approved change request. So by engagement vehicle, I mean that stakeholder is going to get more interested in the project, knowing the outcome. It's going to help them know the outcome of change requests, are referred to as CRs. It's going to help them understand, okay, that's the disposition. It was put on hold, or it's pending, or it's been sent to another project. Maybe the change request is relevant to a totally different piece of work, maybe in a program. So this is really an engagement vehicle. That's why you've got your change log as a possible input. You want to engage those stakeholders. You want to let them know what the status of change requests are. And if any of those stakeholders ask the question, what is the status of my change request? Well, all the project manager needs to do is show the change log. And that's why every change request that you get in this world of the PMI, you want to put all of your CR information into the change log, okay? Put all your CR info into the log. Make a practice of doing this in your real world as well. So what goes into the change log? Well, first of all, you want to get your formal change request. And then that formal change request, you need to log the change request. Put it in the change log. And then you can begin to do your analysis. Do your analysis of the change request with your team. Of course, it's a team effort. Don't do it alone at home, project manager. You shouldn't do it alone because your team members may have great ideas that you may not have. Expert judgment, your SMEs. After your analysis, you want to send on the change request to the, I'm going to call it change authorities. And your change authorities could be the CCB. Your change authorities could also be the project sponsor and the PM. Your change authority could be some other delegated authority. It does not always have to be the change control board. Some companies have portfolio steering committees, and they take charge of changes made at various levels. So it doesn't always have to be the CCB. And that's one of these tricks that you can find on an exam. You could be asked, there's a change request, what should you do? And you don't find a CCB in the options. You might find something generic, such as delegated authority, change authority, project sponsor, or whoever is responsible for those change requests. So after you send the change request to the change authorities, whoever they may be, you're going to end up getting a disposition. Are you going to put it on hold based on what the change authorities have said? Is it going to be approved? Is it going to be rejected? So on hold, or some people would say pending. What is the status? Now, the summary of all of this is whatever the disposition, the next step is going to be update the change log. And lastly, share it. Share the change log with stakeholders in a bid to engage them, of course. So when you think of this last step, share the changelog with stakeholders to keep them updated, to engage them for whatever reasons, as documented, it takes us back to our initial map of the world of change requests, right here where we started. And the question is, what is the purpose of this change log going in to manage stakeholder engagement? And based on what you've seen, the purpose is to get them up to speed, to inform them, to help them understand the project and what is happening as far as changes on the project. And again, how could you get a change request from here? You could get a change request, like I said, from various processes, even in planning, as I showed you in plan procurement management. And then the next question is, how can the change log be updated as a result of this process? So we have the change log going in to manage stakeholder engagement, but you also have those updates. So you've got your project documents updates, and a sub update would be your change log. And the question was, how come we have the change log being updated? Why would it be updated as a result of that process? So whenever you come across something like this in the PMBOK guide, I just say use your imagination. Think about it. Hey, PMBOK guide is not a cookie cutter machine. It's not a recipe for every possibility under the sun. And that's why the PMI are fond of using the words could include but are not limited to. And I'd like to take that a step further and say the steps in this process could include but are not limited to. You see, I've trained project management in so many firms across the world. A few weeks ago, I was training a firm that makes double-decker buses. Month before that, I was training a firm that mixes potions. Well-known firm to get great beauty products. And what I've noticed in every firm, be it NASA, the FBI, Lush Cosmetics, any of these companies or organizations, they use project management in different ways, but it doesn't change the organic mix. So I often encourage my students to use their imagination to think of scenarios. Regardless what you're making or what you're doing, think about it. Under what situation could a change log be updated after sharing it with a stakeholder? I bet you can think about 2 or 3 scenarios. And you know the funny thing? They're not wrong. What you're thinking about is not wrong. You know, because if it's a real world scenario you've experienced, it can happen. So as you read through the PMBOK guide, just ask yourself, when could this have happened? Why could this happen? And don't doubt your answer, because your answer is based on your experience. Remember, the PMBOK guide is good practices based on people's experience. So anytime you see something like that, first of all, go to the mothership the PMBOK guide. Okay? Look for the change log in there and see what it reads. What it does read, it says the change log may be updated based on any change requests. That's helpful, isn't it? That's why you got to use your own imagination and your own mind. So if you're sharing a change log with a stakeholder and the stakeholder feels the information could be presented better across the board and in the firm, don't you think that's a worthy change request? It is. If you're sharing information with a stakeholder and the stakeholder knows something you don't know about that change, and the stakeholder says, oh, that's already been implemented, that's been done, this has been cancelled, oh, I don't want that anymore. Those are also scenarios in which you can update the change log. So I'd like to encourage you folks, as you read the PMBOK guide, think about it in a more organic way. Don't shut down your great ideas or your interpretations of what could have happened, because those are meant to help you. You know, that's why the PMI wants how many years? How many years do they want you to have of experience? If you have a degree, it's 3 years. If you don't have a degree, it's 5 years. They want you to have the experience because it's hard to go through the PMBOK guide without some prior understanding and awareness. All right? So, Kamal, I hope that answers your question. I'm sure you'll be taking a look at this later on. But that's all I've got for tonight. I wish you all the best. Don't forget, go to praizion.com. PRAIZION.com and check out the training that we have for the PMBOK Guide 6th edition. If you find yourself scratching your head and wondering, what on earth is the PMI trying to tell me? It's a sign. You need to come sign up for the training. Sign up for a course, get your 35 contact hours, and let's ace the test. Talk to you soon.